overnight, and we're just monitoring things behind the scenes. Might as well do a quick update to see where things stand. So I know we're not gonna, I'm hoping that a lot of us are heading to bed tonight, but if not, I understand a few rumbles might keep you awake. So yeah, folks already asking there if they can go to sleep. Yes, go to sleep. I think one of the big things tonight is the fact that severe weather threat is primarily going to be up there towards our north. But it does eventually work its way into North Mississippi. In fact, one of the things that we're seeing right now are those storms moving close to the Tennessee state line and then into Tennessee and ending up becoming a little bit stronger. I mean, let's just take a look at this 1 hour loop. You can see how we do have all of these storms that are beginning to develop right across Highway 72, working their way across the state line and eventually into the Tennessee area where they are becoming severe. In fact, the latest scan showing a severe thunderstorm warning towards Parsons, Tennessee, and that is in place until 12:45. That starting off as one of those little disturbances here in North Mississippi, eventually becoming stronger towards Tennessee. Now, all of these do have northeasterly flow into, what is that? Now the Centerville area, Dixon area there in Tennessee, just basically well away from us here in North Mississippi. But what I want to pay attention to and why D'Angela, I hope that you get more than just a nap tonight. Yeah, I think that is something that all of us will be able to do is enjoy some rest. Of course, we're keeping eyes on things behind the scenes, but I do hope that you still get that sleep tonight. But looking over there towards Hernando, we're starting to get more of that development take place. Let's actually go to that latest scan. And we'll see there towards Alphaba, Ingram's Mill, Lurline, an area that has seen some action already this evening, now getting a few more of those showers. In fact, that's all they are, showers, heavy showers. And that is going to be right along, I believe that's County Road 305, but that is getting closer to Highway 269 and I-22 here in a bit. Oh, that's Interstate 269 and I-22 here in just a little bit. So let's put a track on that. These are continuing to move at about 30 to 35 miles an hour. So as we put this on, and I'm going to take it at about 34, and let me make sure we have the right direction on this so that way we can make sure we have that path correct. I think that's a little bit too far northeast. I think we need to go to that latest one and take it directly there towards the Byhalia area where our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut was earlier on this evening, which I think he is still out and about. Speaking of, we're seeing Ingram's Mill by about 12:11, Warsaw going to be closer to 12:19, the Coal Oil Corner 12:22, Victoria 12:26, and Red Bank's closer to 12:31. What this is just a heavier shower. Overall going to remain below severe limits, but once it crosses into Tennessee, I mean, we're talking Bolivar, Selmer, potentially becoming a little bit more intense as those as that unstable air mass remains in place. As we look at those dew points, continue to remain pretty high across North Mississippi, all things considered. One of the things that they have up there towards the north is a little bit more of that energy. So let's take it to the latest scan again, and let's assess the atmosphere. So as you can see, lots of severe thunderstorm warnings up there towards northeast Arkansas, towards Jonesboro and Heber Springs, even a tornado warning in effect. Well, what they have out there is dew points in the low 70s, and that continues right along the state line for Tennessee and Arkansas, and eventually Mississippi and Arkansas as well. So our atmosphere is prime, but there's not a ton of unstable air here in North Mississippi compared to what it was earlier. As I just populated in a few of those numbers, we're getting more into the mid to upper 60s the further east we go, and that limits our severe weather potential. One of the things we saw earlier today was that severe thunderstorm moving right across the county lines of Marshall, Benton, Tippah, and Union. That eventually moved into Tishomingo, actually not even Tishomingo. It dissolved before Tishomingo and basically made it to Prentiss County and fizzled away. It's because it's just not as good of an atmosphere for it to continue to strengthen and develop. So as we look here at our severe weather expectations, overall, it's going to be more impressive to our west. And that's where we've seen a lot of these storms initiate, and that's where we continue to have those warnings here tonight. So with that being said, it's not impossible to get some of those strong storms right along that Mississippi River area, but once it moves further east than that, our severe weather potential does not continue too far. So looking back at our Mama Justice Doppler radar, we're looking out of Memphis. You can see that we have a few showers, but overall, incomparable to what they have up there towards Arkansas. A tornado warning in effect until 12:45 for Jackson County there in Arkansas, and even a few severe thunderstorm warnings as well until 12:30 there towards Jackson as well. You can see Mississippi, Arkansas, Craighead, Arkansas, and Lawrence, Arkansas, with a pretty extended severe thunderstorm warning as well. One thing I do want to look at real quick that will eventually affect us later on is the orientation of these storms. So as we put it back on that loop, we're going to look at the direction that it is headed, and it does look like it's heading in this southeast direction, closer to the North Mississippi area. And one of the big questions with this is as we look further down the line, eventually getting closer to Conway and Heber Springs even again, we get this additional development just extending off that tail and working its way closer to Little Rock eventually. So how far does that line extend before we do start to get those storms initiating enough to where they'll eventually cover a good bit of North Mississippi, because that potential is still there. So let's go ahead and do a track on this, and it does look like it's moving in that southeast direction. Hold on. I'm curious how much longer these will be strong. So looking at the latest, do you see that line that develops? Let me draw this out. Let me jump to the latest scan, and I'm going to use yellow. Look at this line right there. And watch how this goes over the last 30 minutes. You see how that outflow boundary is starting to extend off of it? Well, that basically means that's your lift right there. And that's usually what we'd see kind of initiate these storms and keep them going at a pretty strong pace. So the fact that that's starting to jut out ahead, that's that lift. It's almost like a miniature cold front almost. And that's a lift getting out ahead of these storms. So overall, that's a good sign, I feel like, that the outflow is getting out ahead of this. Where it becomes a different situation is as it moves further towards these storms. So eventually this outflow that we get all the way there towards Blytheville, Arkansas, and even getting closer to Dyersburg, Tennessee, that eventually pushes south and east enough to where it catches up to these cells, all developing out there towards southwest Tennessee, even into south central Tennessee. And we're already getting severe thunderstorm warnings attached to those. So if you get something to get those lifted, then that's going to make these really fire off. And so I'm curious, if we get out here towards central Tennessee, I know there's not a ton of instability, but if we get any bit of a lifting mechanism, I could see these things ramping up a good bit. Even as this begins to intersect some of these cells out here towards Memphis, I think you guys can see my mouse, towards Memphis and South Haven, right along I-55. That's where it wouldn't be impossible to get there towards Covington, Tennessee, even Jackson, Tennessee, and maybe see those get some strength as well. Okay, so Parsons, as we were looking at just a moment ago, to show you the difference of the atmosphere, already getting a tornado warning, whereas that started as just a cluster of cells here in North Mississippi. So shows you how things can ramp up quickly in the right environment. And fortunately for us, we were capped out to where those storms didn't exactly get going too much. So looking in the chat, I see a lot of folks looking from Lee County, from Corinth, even North Alabama represented there. What I want you guys to know first off, we do have a tornado watch until 5 a.m. on our Tuesday. What we're watching for that tornado watch is going to be this line of storms that continues to develop towards northwest Arkansas and northeast Arkansas and northwest Tennessee. So as we do a line for all of this, and it does continue to go about 31, 32 miles an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way to 35 miles an hour to compensate for perhaps a faster movement, a faster progression. We're going to take this all the way across the area into Dyersburg. And as we drag that out, I'm going to put it at about 35 miles an hour. It's tough on this, but it should give you the general path. There we go. So 35. And we are going to extend this out to about, let's do 200 miles. And then we're going to go into, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. How short can we make it? Oh, man. Let me check it. I might have just messed it up. I might have made it mad. Let me draw it back one more time. So going at about 35 miles an hour. And I'm going to take it more of a southerly flow to it just so we can make sure we include as much of the area, at least give as much of a heads up as possible. So we're going to take it about, can I go 150? Okay, and we are going to go Why is it doing that? I am making it mad to the point that it does not want to work with me. Is that working now? Okay. And I will take it up to, I wish there was a way to get more of the Mississippi towns on there. Because Blue Mountain there by 4:40, and Burnsville closer to about 4:35. So this is going to be pushing late into the evening. So one of the things that we're talking about is this being a late night threat. That's why that tornado watch is in effect until 5 a.m. So I do expect that it will produce tornadoes up towards the north. I don't think it's impossible to get a brief one here in North Mississippi, but as I've been talking about all night long, and the whole team here at Mississippi Live Weather has been discussing, is models have been overdoing it. And even with the latest runs that are coming out, continue to overdo it, even with the latest runs. So with that being said, and even the National Weather Service saying this too, take it with a grain of salt. And we have been so far tonight. And that's why we're not highly concerned about this, but we are getting at least that initiation here in North Mississippi to get these storms firing off. And I'm going to look at that Alphabet one here in a second. But as these do begin to fire off, they're working their way into southern Tennessee, and that's where they're becoming more severe and impactful. So as we track that out, of course, that's what we're paying attention to. We have gotten some of those reports out there towards Arkansas. Luckily, the thing that I will say about those Arkansas storms is so far storm reports at least reflecting that we've had a few large hailstones, but with all the tornado warnings that they've had, getting actually produced tornadoes have been minimal so far tonight. I know we had one confirmed one there towards Arkansas and up there around Illinois a few hours ago, but as we see all these tornado warnings continue to be issued, luckily a lot of that has remained elevated. So as we look at that latest velocity mode, I want to go back to this cell out there towards Alphaba, one of the ones that we were tracking just a moment ago, because it is starting to get some more of those reds and even a purple showing up a moment ago, meaning that this is getting stronger. And as that gets stronger, it's just initiating right here in North Mississippi and working its way across the state line here momentarily, where it will potentially become something stronger. But right there towards Cockrum has been the initiating point for a few cells at this point. And as it moves across County Road 305, that's where it wouldn't be impossible towards Byhalia, towards Warsaw, even up there towards Tasca, potentially getting up to, I'm not going to say a severe storm, but at least stronger than where it currently sits at. The one thing that's preventing me from being sold on this is the fact that if you look right up here above my head, we're at 0 strikes. So 0 strikes at least telling us a story that this is not an energetic storm. And as we've seen from earlier tonight, where those severe thunderstorms do happen, there is a lot of energy attached to it. So let me see. We should have a view. I'm trying to think of where we'd get the best view on this. Is Crenshaw able to be seen on this? Which I don't know what I'm trying to see right now, because it's going to be hard to get any of that city light up there because Memphis is just too far away. And then you aren't going to get any lightning. This is just basically what I wanted to see if there was any lightning, because earlier on our lightning strike counter was lower because a lot of it was cloud to cloud. So I was seeing if we were getting any of that cloud to cloud lightning, and so far not seeing much out of that tonight. As I look up there, let's see if we could get a visual on any of this. Batesville's been a very busy camera this evening, as that's been the initiation point for a lot of folks as those storms have worked through northwest Mississippi and eventually produced that severe thunderstorm closer to Lafayette and Marshall County. Oxford, a similar one. Oxford actually not too far away from one of those cells, but still well below severe limits, and that's a positive that we're tracking tonight. So overall thoughts. Well, we are remaining below severe limits, and that is a positive, because with how models were trending earlier today, one of the things that we talked about behind the scenes was just that we got really fortunate that there was a cap that prevented those from getting it to be anything more significant. But as we look at that moving towards the northeast, that has moved into southern Tennessee and now has a tornado warning attached to it. In fact, if we look at our wind mode here real quick, you can see that couplet right over there towards Decaturville, now working towards Linden and Bethel up there towards Tennessee. And I want to see earlier on, yeah, there's your notch that forms right there towards Haney, working towards Decaturville. That's where it was first issued, and we're still getting those stronger wind returns. And even reflectivity, that might be developing Yeah, it's a strengthening storm for sure. And then I'm curious back here if we have any of those couplets at least trying to form there towards Hickory Corners, towards Montezuma. Yeah, I mean, we do have broad rotation, but overall, not anything right now that I would be overly concerned with. What I would be paying attention to is out here towards Arkansas. And let's go ahead and look at the latest scans on this to see the wind mode. This is where that tornado warning was just a moment ago, actually. Or earlier on, I should say. That might be a strengthening there with some of those stronger winds. The tornado warning was actually issued just a little bit to the north there, and that seemed to have broadened out. Fortunately, I don't think that one ever got confirmed. And as it continues to move that entire line, it has come down on winds. It looks like, yeah, that outflow, see it just out ahead. But the winds earlier on were very, very strong. Still getting some strong returns out there towards Paragould. But yeah, the outflow being driven out is kind of the limiting factor. One of the things that I usually look for is where's the outflow boundary being, sucked into? Where's that next energy going into? Which map is that, Eric? I'm curious if you are, which one you're talking about, because this is just our SkyCamp network there at the bottom. The map is the size of your TV, so if you're calling our map small. Anyway, as we look up there towards Tennessee, I saw that DJ saying my family's in Linden. Well, let's get a track on that real quick, because I do want, family's family here in North Mississippi, and I do want to make sure that we have the right track on that. So as that has moved on through from Warren's Bluff towards Howard now, and that is about 14. So yeah, we're still looking at about 28 to 31 miles an hour. So as we track that out, I'm going to do a storm track. And if you want to send this to your family, and actually let me make sure it's on that couplet right there. So we're going to keep it at about 33 miles an hour. And there we're getting Linden right there on the map. So there's 1241 for Linden. So I forget it's on that side. So as you look right there, Linden, 1241, Chestnut Grove closer to 1245 as well. DJ, you can send that to your family there in Linden and let them know that here in the next 18 minutes or so, is that right? It's so late at night now, my watch is in sleep mode at this point. So yeah, 18 minutes is where we expect that to move into. So go ahead and give them a heads up. But that's one of the more energetic cells. You can see, look at the difference right here. The lightning strikes just on this cell are 387 strikes, okay? Remember that, 387. Let's go back here to the one in Ingram's Mill. 0. So 387 to 0. That shows the difference in these cells that we're seeing. Now, even over this last scan or so, it looked a little bit more impressive earlier on, but just not really taking advantage of its environment, because once it moves out of there, we're already talking about leaving the 70s for the upper 60s and eventually the mid 60s. I mean, this stretch right here from South Haven to Byhalia to Holly Springs, 72 to 68 to 66. That definitely shows the trend of things going down. And I see Chance asking about Hickory Flat. Well, Hickory Flat's at 66 as well. That's not telling me that this is going to be conducive for severe weather to strengthen or form. I think the one thing that 66 shows me is that it has a maintaining moisture. And even then, it's on the lower end in regards to maintaining moisture. So this is honestly not a concerning look for me. And we've officially gotten rid of the tornado warnings for this line moving through North Arkansas. Very welcoming sight. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be without some stronger winds. That's one thing we talked about, was that strong winds will be continue to show with this system. But overall, by the time it reaches North Mississippi, it's not impossible that those stay sub-severe. Still 40 miles an hour possible, but that 60 miles an hour is that severe threshold that we look for here in the weather world. So as I look in the chat, I want to make sure that I'm addressing everything that I need to. And DJ, I appreciate earlier on. Listen, we signed up for weather long ago, and we knew that it would be sometimes a nighttime commitment. So we have team coverage around the clock, so everyone's going to be able to get their rest, but we're still having someone monitoring the weather as much as possible. So don't have to worry about that, because we went into weather. You guys have other jobs. You guys have other things in your life that you need to worry about. So we want to make sure that you're still able to do so. And here in the weather world, we'll keep eyes on this for you and let you know through Weather Call or through the Mississippi Live Weather app if you need to be awake for any of this. So honestly, if you're in the chat, I appreciate you joining tonight. I hope that you did have a magnificent Monday, but heading into tonight, I hope that you do try to get at least some rest. So, okay, this is exactly what I was looking for. I wasn't exactly looking for a tornado, but this is exactly what I was looking for from an atmospheric standpoint. So that outflow boundary that we talked about just a moment ago, I'm going to draw it in one more time because I know there's a lot on the map that you can get to look at. But right there's your boundary, and that's forming out ahead of these cells. So all of these cells right here are well below, are going to start to diminish in strength because it just doesn't have that, that outflow that it's able to take advantage of. It's starting to get out ahead of this system. But it eventually goes straight into that next batch. And if you watch this, let me put this on a loop here real quick and put it in play mode. I'll actually have to drag it over so that way you guys get a better visual. So put this in play mode. You see how the storms start to become more vertical. And as these become more vertical, that's where, well, actually I'm blocking it, so let me move it to where you guys can see it. As these become more vertical, that's where you potentially get some of that rotation for just a brief moment. This is not going to be a long track producer, but this is where we talk about those brief spin ups possible, and we're getting that within this setup. I'm curious the velocity scans on this. Yeah, it's still broad. Overall, it's not anything that's saying, hey, tornado about to happen right now. It's had broad rotation for the last few scans. They knocked out that warning and eventually did a, oh, that's confirmed now. Okay, so that tells us another thing. Radar is not going to be as impressive on this as what is actually on the ground. So let me actually get my phone behind the scenes and look at the National Weather Service chat there, so that way I can be monitoring what they have. This would be out there in Little Rock, so I need to make sure that we are added to that as well. So bear with me behind the scenes, just watching this here for you guys. And so yes, so one of the things that they looked at is, let me find the product here real quick. Right here, right there. So the velocity mode was not impressive, but one of the things that you get is look right here at this couplet. Again, it is very broad in regards to our winds, but this is a loft. This is not the surface. This is still a ways away from our radar site. But if we line this up, that would have been a scan. Let me go one scan back. Right there. Right there is what you're looking at. Oh yeah, earlier on. Okay, so yeah, going back on those scans, that was definitely a brief tornado touchdown over there towards Arkansas. And that's when they ended up going confirmed. So the velocity has broadened out. So that's one thing that we can guarantee. But earlier on, if we go back to that velocity mode, still not impressive on the wind returns, but it is enough to where we have that confirmed debris signature right within that rotation. And up there towards northeast Arkansas, we were tracking a tornado touchdown close to the Grubbs and Denton Island, right between there along Highway 67. So praying that everyone is okay with that. But that was earlier on. Now, as we watch that rotation, let me track this out. You know, it's now towards the Cache area of Arkansas. And if we look for debris right there, I don't have it lining up. So if we look right here, we'd be looking for debris somewhere between the Fisher and Denton Island area. And that's showing up ahead of it. What that may be is some of the debris actually being lofted into the air and out ahead of the storm. So that's where you get some of these signatures, but might not necessarily be the debris signature. It's more of that lofted debris in the area. So again, praying everyone is okay with that, but that is moving through Arkansas. And that was one of those brief tornado touchdowns that we said is not possible with this setup. And that continues to move just south of Jonesboro. So that's one of those lines that we were talking about as it moves closer to North Mississippi that we could potentially see here in our area. But we're talking about tornadoes here. I think our atmosphere is not as well done as what they have in Arkansas. Like, look at all within this line. You see those purple showing up from the Little Rock area all the way towards the north and east towards the Union City, Tennessee area, seeing 70-degree dew points. So here in North Mississippi, we have an area of 70-degree dew points right along the river, but the rest of us going to be in the mid to upper 60s. That's shown us that it's not conducive for severe weather so far throughout this evening. But unfortunately, we did have a confirmed tornado touchdown there towards Jonesboro, Arkansas. So saying a prayer for folks up there that they are going to be okay. So let's bring it back to our reflectivity mode, our radar real quick, our Mama Justice Doppler radar, I should say. And the only action that we have so far is this towards Byhalia, right along I-22 towards Victoria. Overall, not concerned. Hasn't really strengthened over the last 30 minutes. And this is evidence of our atmosphere. So as you see that move through Cochrane, looks a little bit more impressive, but now towards Warsaw and Byhalia, honestly, the same strength, might even be a little bit less. Well, let's compare that to dew points. What has it crossed into? We're now into an area where it has receded the moisture towards the north and west, and it's entering an area where it's in the upper 60s. That's not going to strengthen it. So can we go to bed? A great question, and one that I'm sure a lot of folks are asking right now. So tonight we are still under a tornado watch until 5 a.m. as those storms work their way towards the south and east. So it's possible that we do get a strong thunderstorm, that we do get perhaps a rotating storm as well. I want you guys to stay up until 5 a.m. So the best thing that I can recommend for you guys to do is go ahead and download the Mississippi Live Weather app to stay up to date, or go ahead and download Weather Call. It's something we have here on Mississippi Live Weather. We partner with them where they'll give you a call to give you a heads up when those storms are working their way through. Turn your ringer on and you will be good to go. So that way you're able to get sleep on nights like tonight. And I know if you're like me, you spend $1 a day on something. Well, if you devote that $1 a day on something that you honestly have probably forgotten about what you spent it on today, then if you put that towards Weather Call, you get that $1 a month, and you're able to get something that will save your life. It saved thousands of lives already and will continue to do so as we head into the next several years. $15 a year will call you for tornadoes, call you for severe weather, call you for flash flooding, even call you back if it is confirmed. So folks in Arkansas, if they have Weather Call, they would have gotten one call for the tornado warning. They would have gotten another call for that confirmed tornado touchdown. So making sure that you know how to stay safe, and that's why you need to make sure to download it so that way you're able to get some sleep, because I don't want you guys to have to stay up. Again, I went into weather. This is my job, but it's also a privilege to be able to serve you guys. But for everyone that works another job, and as they get into tomorrow morning, I don't want you guys to be dragging or groggy from not getting sleep tonight. So just stay safe, stay informed, and the best way to do that is download Weather Call and the Mississippi Live Weather app. So as that has moved through Jonesboro, I just want to make sure that I track this out, because while this is still a confirmed tornado from earlier on, it doesn't mean it's lost its punch. As it moves there towards the Chilson area, Cache, Otwell, you know what? The best thing we can do for this is track out that tornado warning all the way into North Mississippi. And we're going to track it with the same speed that we've been doing on these. And it honestly has it moving pretty easterly compared to the southeast movement that it could be taking. So if we put it right on that rotation, we drag it out, we're going to put it at about 34 miles an hour, and we're going to extend this all the way into the North Mississippi area. So that should be let's take it a little bit more. There we go. That'll make sure. Go right there. So we're seeing Corinth closer to about 459 right there. Savannah, Tennessee by 514. Sheffield 625, Florence 626, Tuscumbia 627. So that'd be northwest Alabama right there. That's by the time the sun's starting to rise by that point. But that's if it maintains this strength, which as we've seen, it's already broadened out a good bit. Actually, let me bring it back in there, because radar scans have not been the impressive part about this. The way that we got the confirmation was actually due to a debris signature, and that has since lifted. But for those that are just now joining us earlier on, if we go back about 3 or 4 scans, we can see that this did have a debris signature right there towards the Denton Island area, and continue to move right there. Touchdown right along Highway 67, and then moved up there towards Denton Island before dissolving away. So overall, I mean, how long is that? 12:18, we get that signature. Still there by 12:22. Basically dissolving out by 12:25. That's a decent, I mean, I'm saying a prayer that folks up there are okay. Hopefully it wasn't in a very populated area, so that way it didn't impact many of us. Actually, looking at that latest scan right there, it looks like it is trying to wrap back around. Sure enough. So we're getting that RFD to try to form. Let me get it off red so that you guys can see it. That RFD trying to wrap around right there. And you have that inflow through the outflow boundary that's getting right there into the storm, feeding it. And so as we put it on reflectivity, there you go. You can see that notch that's starting to develop. That's that RFD, that rear flank downdraft like we were talking about, starting to get that inflow, and that's wrapping it around, potentially trying to recycle this tornado towards Otwell right along Highway 49. So I need to actually check with Caleb and see where he is at. Because if he's still out and about, I very well could touch base with him. Because I think they were trying to go to Arkansas to see if they could get anything. So I'm curious if he has a visual on that. Another tornado warning being issued there towards Dyersburg. This was on the northern fringes of that outflow boundary. But everything back behind this, I mean, it's still an electric storm, but hopefully it is diminishing because it is continuing to move towards the south and east. So for Pontotoc, same thing that I've been saying for everybody. They're under a tornado watch until 5 a.m. So the potential is there for a strong thunderstorm here in the Pontotoc area, but all across North Mississippi, right along and north of Highway 6, as these storms do move into the area. So the potential is there, pretty low, but it's there in a minimal fashion. So what about Tupelo, Fulton, and Amory? Same thing. I mean, we're right there in that same boat. So what we're getting right now is initiation with a lot of these cells right here in the northwest part of the state. Those are working their way across the state line into Tennessee, and that's where we're getting those starting to strengthen up there towards Savannah, Tennessee, Centerville, Tennessee as well. That's where the severe weather has been happening so far with the setup. Here in North Mississippi, we're basically the start of everyone else's severe weather, it feels like. But as that's continuing to move there towards as this main line behind me is continuing to move towards the south and east, that's where we are getting the potential for some of those storms here in the North Mississippi area. So they did take off that confirmed tornado warning. Let me see what they're saying there in the chat. Interesting. So actually that debris signature could have just been a good bit of dust as well. That's what they're talking about in the chat. So that's a good thing if that's what it is. So looking, Abby asking, what about 4 to 6 a.m. for Plantersville? Okay, so they are in actually Jackson, Tennessee, which would be to the south of these storms. I don't know how much service he has, but he's definitely in a more primed area. I mean, again, I'm going to pull up dew points again for the umpteenth time at this point, and that's going to be an area where these storms are able to move into. I think it's possible that towards Memphis and South Haven that we do continue some of these stronger storms, but as they move further into the North Mississippi area, that potential does decrease by a good margin if these dew points remain at what they're at, and that's what I think will be maintained. So looking overall, that's what we're tracking. A large part of the severe weather, like we talked about at 5, 6, 9, and 10 tonight and all through the broadcast, was that this is going to stay more towards the north, but here in North Mississippi, it's not possible. We just expect the ingredients to be more primed up there. Now, heading towards our Tuesday, going to update you guys on that. Here's a look at that severe weather risk for, say, the days. No one's usually live at 12:39, so that's why it hasn't changed over just yet. But this is for Tuesday, I promise. And there's that level 3 threat getting into North Mississippi. And the main things that we're watching with that are going to be those strong winds, not just some of those winds, but we are talking about some of the stronger destructive winds up to 70 miles an hour in some spots as that cluster works its way into North Mississippi. Looking at the tornado threat, it is expected to be more towards Arkansas and Louisiana where we get some of those stronger ones, but it's not possible to get some of those weaker tornadoes. Still a tornado, so prepare, but still not going to be the EF2 plus like what they have out there towards Arkansas on Tuesday. And large hail also possible as well. So some rotating storms are expected, but a good bit of those going to be more of the hail and wind producers, but a tornado is not possible with that setup. So unfortunately, the threat does not end there. And then even as we get towards Wednesday, again, I'm sorry, this says Thursday. It's supposed to say Wednesday. We are getting that level 1 threat. This is as that front continues to push there towards the south, driving out those storms further towards the coastal regions. But it is still possible south of Highway 82 that we do get some of these storms as well, and some of them being on the stronger side. So as we bring it back here to Mama Justice Doppler radar, we're looking at this line of storms moving through the area. In fact, it's going to be a learning process together. Let me track out this whole line, and I'm going to figure out how to get Mississippi, just Mississippi cities in there. Let me do about 35 miles an hour. I'll edit that. I'll go. I need to go more than that. There we go. I told you I'm going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. Well, let me. You know, you can only click so many buttons before you feel like you're going to break the thing, and I feel like I'm going to break the thing. So I'm trying my best not to, but don't let me. Oh, I think I just figured it out. Okay, I think I just figured it out. Bear with me. I think we've reached an answer on this. Where do we want to start it? Go all the way to South Haven. Select. Boom. It's called Figuring Out Technology. I appreciate that. Oh, Caleb, that's Caleb. Caleb, you keep up the good work. You're out there in the field. If you want to go live, let me know. I'll pull up your live shot. South Haven there, 453. Piperton, 456. Selmer, that's going to be up there towards Tennessee, 456 as well. Middleton, Tennessee, 459. Waynesboro, 503. Is there a way I can expand this? I know it says Olive Branch closer to about 512. Centertown by 522. I'm gonna see if I can take this even further. So yes, this has it moving. I'm gonna do a more southerly track on this. So we're gonna have to do all this again. But get lined up. Hey, the fortunate thing is it's not here just yet. So we're gonna take it more on a southerly track. So that way we can give it a little bit more of a heads up if this does take more of a different direction, or at least more of a southerly direction on that. So as I drag that out, we're going to do about 200 miles on this to make sure we cover all of North Mississippi. I'm going to go to clean it up just a bit so that we're not looking at a ton of different cities on there. And let me see, I would start at Tupelo, but let's go a little bit more north. Senatobia, let's start there. Okay, there we go. Senatobia, 442. Ripley, 443. Blue Mountain, closer to 450. Burnsville, 453 as well. We're Hickory Flat, 453. The Elkmont, 502. Myrtle, 505. Iuka, 505 as well. Boonville, 516. New Albany, 520. Sardis by about 521. Let me see if I can get a few more towns listed on there. So there's Tuscumbia, 536. Oxford, 550. Saltillo, 554. Pontotoc, I saw some folks asking there about 604. So this is going to be a bit of a ways down the line, but nonetheless, it is still possible. Tupelo closer to about 6 a.m. You know, that's if it goes in that southerly direction, but you know, as of right now, I think it does go more of a southeast track. So there we go. So Caleb is actually live. I don't believe I have a 2-box with him, but I think I can talk over his live shot. Let me make sure behind the scenes. When he gets that pulled up. He's up. Okay, sweet. We're going to toss Caleb out in the field. He's actually up there in Jackson, Tennessee. So right underneath that tornado warning right there, looking up there towards Dyersburg. You know, Caleb, what are you seeing right now? And yeah, just kind of walk us through what you guys have been up to.
Kind of, well, hopefully I'm coming through. There we go. I think it's starting to play catch up. Yeah, we're heading south out of Jackson on 45, trying to get closer towards that severe thunderstorm warning out there in Henderson. But yeah, pretty much just a lot of rain. We're seeing kind of more energetic storms up here in Tennessee, just with the constant flashes of lightning. But again, nothing intense, or at least anything intense that we experienced out there in Hickory Flat earlier this evening with that hail that moved on through. But yeah, I just wanted to tune in, kind of see what you were talking about and kind of keeping everybody informed tonight, give you some company. But yeah, we're just still kind of tracking kind of more southern now, kind of making a loop up towards the Jackson region and kind of U-turning back down to see if we can get closer towards that severe thunderstorm warning, get an eye on that, see kind of what it's trying to produce, if anything. But again, kind of just been a nice drive, trying to see what's all going on pretty much across the state line, further into Tennessee, where you've been tracking all that action going on up there, Gabe. So kind of sad we don't have the 2 box to kind of talk back and forth with each other, but that's kind of what's going on up here. Just lots of flashes of lightning off in the distance, a few heavy patches of rain, but kind of been a nice night drive.
Well, Caleb, I have my mic up here behind the scenes. You know, does it still feel like the atmosphere is kind of primed for severe weather to take place, or do you feel like it's been ran over, it's been busy, it's been used up?
That's a good question. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell as far as like kind of feeling the environment, especially just within the car. I would say there's been some storms that have kind of moved on through this region already. And some that kind of already moved into the Jackson region. The severe thunderstorm warning that we're kind of tailing behind in Henderson kind of kept moving through this area as well. So I would say kind of almost a happy medium. It feels like there's still a lot of those storms behind that you were tracking, kind of using that line with to continue giving everybody the latest updates as those kind of storms continue moving on through the overnight period. But I think that continues to be the biggest question, especially with how well that cap stood today, and with the storms kind of still continuing not to produce as well. Kind of unfortunately still keeps that environment primed for more storms to occur tomorrow. So I think that's something that we're going to have to continue to keep our eyes on. And I know you're doing a great job with that back at the studio, keeping everybody informed. So maybe if we can get a cool shot, I'll be able to step outside, see kind of how it feels outdoors. But yeah, kind of still seeing kind of those energetic storms off in the distance, still very just constant flashes of lightning. So the energy is still there, Gabe, and that's what we're kind of continuing to follow behind as we get closer towards that severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, so are you tracking towards, just making sure I have it right, towards Henderson or?
Yes.
Okay.
We're leaving Jackson, heading south towards Henderson. So we're kind of behind it almost.
Are you, oh, I might have lost him. There you are.
Oh, my back?
Yeah, you're back. So back
There
behind that, just southwest of Jackson towards Denmark. Are you guys curious about that one at all?
Adrian, you looking at that one?
I'm curious with it. See, the thing is, we know that line's going to come through, but we know if any of the, enormously significant severe weather were to occur, it'd be with one of these discrete supercells. So our current thinking is we can always turn around and go get the line if we wanted to, take a look at it, but we want to make sure these renegade discretes, these prefrontal supercells are staying under control and not going to produce any significant tornadoes of that nature before we turn around and head to the head of the line.
Yeah,
So
were you able to get all that, Gabe?
Yes. So you guys haven't been to the line just yet?
Not yet, no.
No,
Okay.
it still kind of continues moving closer towards us. And we went as far north as Jackson, but then still kept our eyes on that Henderson storm and kind of just U-turning and seeing where it takes us.
I got you. I was just curious because that's kind of our threat here in North Mississippi, because everything that forms up here goes up to you guys and eventually becomes something stronger, fortunately. So we've been kind of staying void of that so far. So it looks like the next best weather maker here in North Mississippi will end up being that line. Caleb, I appreciate you. Adrian, the whole team out there, I appreciate you guys for joining us as well. If you guys get anything, just text me and let me know, and my watch will bing, and I'll toss it over to you. But I appreciate that. So you guys stay safe and stay alert, and we'll see you back here at some point, right?
Oh, yeah. We can do that. Thank you, Gabe.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. We're going to bring it back in here to the Room to Room Weather Center. I know that some folks that may have just joined us are like, why are we looking up into Tennessee? Well, Tennessee is where our weather maker is taking place that will eventually move into North Mississippi. And as of right now, we do have a tornado warning attached to it east of Dyersburg, along with some of those severe thunderstorm warnings as well. And actually a new tornado warning just getting issued on that cell towards Jonesboro. And this is one that we just tracked a moment ago because it does have that inflow like we talked about just a moment ago. You get that outflow boundary surging right into this storm. Once you get that RFD to form, you're getting that inflow, you're getting the RFD, and that's where you do end up getting some of that rotation. So as we look at the latest returns right there towards Cary, still getting some of those inflow outflow interactions, forming that couplet. And as we, I'm going to just hold it right there because we had a debris signature earlier on, not getting that now, fortunately. So that tornado warning that is in effect and does work its way east, but this is still well into the West Tennessee area. So this is still holding it really far to our north compared to what some of the models were trying to initiate. You know, we were talking 1 or 2 o'clock, and then it started to push it back later and later. So I'm curious how this will continue into the night, because this is going to be a very slow moving system working its way down south. Could it fill out more down south of this line where it could reach Nettleton? So let's actually look at that, because that is a great question. And I want to put it on, let me just make sure nationals, that way we can make sure to cover it. It'll be more of a high definition mode, or not high definition, but more of a, you're getting more coverage with this, so it's going to be kind of blended together, so it's not as clear and crisp of a shot. So if we put this on a loop, one thing we're looking for right here is how that has trended back. And it doesn't, well, you're getting some of those cells initiating. But what you're getting with this, that's different from earlier on. I mean, let's go all the way back to when these were initiating out there towards western Arkansas, and that was about 3 hours ago. Oh my word, we've been busy. So right here, you see how they're their own discrete individual storms that are developing some thunderstorm or some tornado warnings, and eventually try to produce that later on. Even this one up here. Well, eventually these merge together and become along the line. And while that can produce a tornado, overall that limits the potential of strong tornadoes. I mean, as you can see right there, we're getting all those reds in a line all the way up that cold front, working up into northern Tennessee and towards Kentucky as well. So it's not impossible to get some stronger gusts along that leading edge, but you know, overall that's going to limit that strong tornado potential that is still in place. As I look right here behind the scenes just to make sure, yeah, I mean, there is still that potential to have a strong tornado, but you know, overall that does limit it a bit more, because you don't have those discrete cells that are able to strengthen and build more and more. So, you know, could it fill out more south of the line? Yes. It's going to be more of a wind producer if it does that, because of the orientation of it. I mean, looking at that loop one more time, you can see how this has kind of become more parallel to us, continuing that southeast movement, even the warnings almost embodying that as well. So that's basically telling you it's going to be gusty along that front. It's going to be gusty even out ahead of it. But overall, the tornado threat, the reason why this tornado warning is issued, and we can look at it, look at the different orientation compared to what you have on the rest of the line. The rest of it, you have it, all of it facing directly south, but then you get this one part that becomes more vertical, and that's that trying to wrap around, and that latest scan continues to try to do exactly that. So whenever you get those cells that become more vertical, that are able to ingest that inflow a bit better, then that's where you could get that brief tornado, and that's what's trying to go on over there towards Truman, Arkansas. But that's going to remain well towards our north and west as we head into the later hours of our, what is it now, Tuesday morning. So that's why that tornado watch was issued for that potential right there. How that carries over into North Mississippi, still have my doubts on that. So good question there, Madison. I saw Gabriel asking about Nettleton as well. Been trying to look at the chat off and on while also just knocking some stuff out here behind the scenes. DJ, I'm sorry I didn't see that until just now. I'll let him know if I talk to him here again here soon. Stacy, I appreciate the sweet words about my wife. If you guys did not know, Baby Cruz, Baby Maynor, is going to be here very soon. So I'm hoping to stay with you guys as long as I can, but eventually, when I'm not here, you'll know why I am not here. So that'll be our secret, I guess. So that's where I was glad I was able to at least be with you guys through the severe weather event, because I wanted to make sure that, you know, I did what I could to keep you guys safe, because like I said, North Mississippi is one big family and we got to make sure that everyone stays safe. So as we look back towards that line, this is again going to be a late night threat, something that meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be watching in the morning shift. I'll be watching overnight along with our chief meteorologist Matt Lawpon, cutting in as necessary. But as of right now, we are still a ways away, and I know that, you know, if you're like me and there's a broadcast that goes on talking about severe weather, then you just want to turn it on and just leave it on and watch it all the time, and it's impossible to turn it off. So I do want you guys to get sleep. That's what a lot of you guys are asking in the chat. If you're wanting to know when specifically for your area, I mean, we're talking 3, 4 o'clock. So let me do one last track on that line, and I'm going to leave that up for you guys to know heading into tomorrow morning. So that way you know when potentially your area could see these storms. But this is not talking about necessarily severe weather. This is not talking about tornadic weather. This is just talking about this line of storms. And overall, we have gotten a few of those reports, but we're hoping that that tornado threat will remain off there towards our north. And so far has been the case. Hopefully it will continue to be the case. So as I drag that out, and again, you guys remember the editing that happened about 20 minutes ago. We're going to do the exact same thing. And we might have to carry it over. Is that enough? We might have to go even further. Let's go 300 just to make sure we cover everything. And let me scroll down. Where I see the first Mississippi city. There we go. There we go. So South Haven there is a look at your time, 5:09. We're 5:11 towards Horn Lake, Moscow, 5:14, Waynesboro, 5:16, Olive Branch closer to about 5:27, Tullahoma, 5:35, Etheridge, 5:37, Collinwood, 5:40, Mitchie there by, is that, yeah, that's Mitchie, oh my word. Whew, it's been a night. Mitchie there by 5:42, Spencer, 5:53, and Lawrenceburg closer to 5:57 as well. Let me do one more path on this because I know I see some folks there saying, well, what about my area? And it's more towards Pontotoc or it's more towards Tupelo, Saltillo, areas like that. I want to make sure that you guys are staying updated as well because, you know, I know this is how some of you are going to plan your night and you guys are going to try to wake up. Oh, that was a bad line. Forgive me. Do not look at those times. But some of you guys are planning your night around it. Honestly, the easiest way to do all of this is to get weather call. Best investment that you could have. And it will keep your family safe. It will keep you safe. And it'll allow you to get sleep, guys. That's really the thing about all this. So if this does take a more southerly motion, which this is not looking like how things have trended so far, and we put a path on this of about, we'll put 200 miles on that. I know it looks like a lot. I'll clean it up, I promise. Let's look for that first city in Mississippi. It's going to be the first one. There we go. All right. There, and there. There's a look at some times. And can I actually clean this up? Oh, can we go even more? Oh, is it not far enough? It might not be far enough. There we go. So South Haven, about 242. This is, again, if it takes way more of a southerly direction, then we're seeing South Haven 242, Horn Lake 246, Savannah, Tennessee 247, Collierville 251, Olive Branch 252, Corinth there at 303, or 305 Hernando, Holly Springs 331, Senatobia closer to 338, Booneville 354. I know I have a few Blue Devils out there watching. Probably should get sleep at this point. Towards Ripley 359, Blue Mountain 404, Florence, Alabama 405, and Muscle Shoals closer to 409 as well. I'm curious if I can make it go even more south. So there we go. We'll take it all the way south. So there we're seeing Tupelo 505, Madison closer to about 513, Decatur, that should be Decatur, Alabama, 513, Starkville 652, Columbus 657, and then closer to my parents way out there in Birmingham. So hey, Mainers out there in Alabama, there's a look at some of your times there by 7 a.m. So might get a call from my mom early tomorrow morning saying, hey, it's raining here. Can't say she didn't know. But that's all to say. That's all to say that DJ, if you have any more information that you want for your family being up there in Tennessee, feel free to put that in the chat and I'll try to answer that. Because Tennessee has been a more active environment tonight. That environment has the potential to carry over. But go ahead and download that. Make sure to hang on one second. Every time I try to think about something, it's like, oh, there's something. That's a good point in the chat. So Chrissy talking about the movement of the storms. You're exactly right, Chrissy. If we're talking about the movement of these storms, all of these out here towards Bolivar, towards, what city is that? Parsons? Yeah, just Parsons, Tennessee. All of these are moving east, northeast. Even these cells that tried to form earlier on, still moving east, northeast up there through Marshall County and across the state line. All of these cells are doing exactly that. If you look at this line, you know, it's ever so slightly towards the south and east. So that's where if these were to go anywhere towards anything more towards North Mississippi, then we're talking right along Highway 72 is the area that I would be focused on to for any of those potential impacts. But nonetheless, that's what I'm looking at. So that first storm track I put down, that's really the one that I believe the path it will be that this will take. But just giving a heads up for folks down south that this were to move a little bit further south. But yes, you're exactly right. The movement on these storms more towards the east-northeast, moving on these storms more towards the southeast, and that's what we had the potential to see here in North Mississippi. So overall, I'm not highly concerned about this. I'm not expecting a high impact event with this setup, but there is enough potential to perhaps hear a severe thunderstorm here in North Mississippi, maybe even a brief tornado, but it's really going to struggle here in North Mississippi. So storms are expected to weaken coming into Columbus. Anthony, good question there. So could the tornado watch time get extended? I don't think so. Not with this one. I think tomorrow we have the potential to get another watch issued, whether that's severe thunderstorm or a tornado watch. I think that's there as well. But I don't think the 5 a.m. watch gets extended. So I think that stays where it's at and will continue into the early hours. So just stay weather aware. It's 1 a.m. already, so try to get some sleep tonight. And we'll, of course, keep you updated right here in the Room to Room Weather Center. So keep it here for the very latest. All the full team is here, keeping you guys safe. So make sure to download that Mississippi Live Weather app today. Go ahead and get Weather Call like we talked about, but just make sure to stay safe and stay aware, and everyone will be okay. That's the most important part about all of this. So we'll see you when we see you, but if we don't see you until our regular broadcast time, that's at 6:30 with meteorologist Maggie McCauley. And there we go. So there's the QR codes there at the bottom of your screen, iOS and Android. Make sure to download that app today. Like, subscribe, follow, download, all the great things. And make sure to download it on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and follow any of the socials there at the bottom of the page. And you're able to get into the chat as well to talk to us. So, yes, so that's what we're going to be looking at heading overnight hours and into tomorrow as well. So keep it here for the very
At Vibe Aesthetics and Wellness, we believe confidence isn't just how you look, it's how you feel. From subtle, natural aesthetics to personalized wellness care, everything we do is intentional. This is beauty with purpose. At Vibe Men's Health, we take that same approach. We focus on what matters most: strength, energy, and performance. Built on real data, real medicine, and real results, we're here to help you look better, feel stronger, and live fully. Come vibe with us today.